So in this video, I'm going to share my process for creating and managing lead generation campaigns for clients. So I'm going to give you kind of an overview of what a typical funnel looks like and all of the work that's involved. And then I'm going to go through each of those steps in more detail and show you the specific software that we use, some of the things that we think about, how much that software costs per month, how we manage campaigns after they're active. I'm going to give you some alternatives for using cheaper software as well, which is going to cost about $50 per month. So basically what you're looking at right now is a typical funnel that we would run for an average client. So the first thing that we do when working with a new client is develop a strategy. It's especially important for us because we work with clients in different industries, which means a lot of the things we learn about the audiences from other clients are not applicable to new clients. And so what we want to do is align on what the business goal of this new client is, what marketing goal we can set to align with that business goal, and then help us understand their audience segment that we're trying to reach, which is going to help us create more persuasive ad copy, lead magnets, etc. So the strategy is really important. Once we align on that and get that approved, then we'll move into developing the lead magnet, which is what we're going to use to capture people's information, their name, email, and phone number. They're going to provide that in exchange for this lead magnet. So the lead magnet that we decide to develop will depend on the strategy. A lot of the times it'll be a PDF or some form of information product. And after we do that, we'll start developing the ad creative. So this would be the photos, the graphics, and the videos that we use in the ads themselves, as well as on the landing page if we choose to use a landing page. And then we'll develop the ad copy, which will pair with the ad creative. We'll put that all into a preview package, send that to the client, they'll approve everything, and then we'll start working on setting it up in the ad manager. So then we'll set everything up in Facebook. That traffic will be sent to a landing page, so we need to design that landing page as well as any thank you pages where after they opt in, they're taken to. If somebody opts in, they're usually added to an email sequence, an automated email sequence. So we'll have to write that email copy, set up that automation, and then inside those emails, we'll have a call to action to book an appointment on the calendar of our client's sales team. So we use appointment generating software for that. So that's kind of what a typical high-level funnel looks like. Other things that we have to set up are the Facebook pixel, potentially Google Analytics and Tag Manager to track all of the performance of the campaign. We'll use Zapier to kind of glue everything together to make sure that Facebook leads that are being generated are being added into the email software, etc. And then I'm going to talk about the reporting process that we do as well. Okay, so the first thing after the strategy is developing the lead magnet and the ad creative. So we actually have a team of content people that are responsible for developing this creative themselves, or oftentimes they'll work with vendors. We'll outsource graphic design to have that those assets created for us. But if we do this work in-house, or if you're going to be doing this for clients and you're just an individual, you're going to need some kind of graphic design software. So there's tons that you can use out there. If you're familiar with Photoshop, that's probably the most advanced option. What I would recommend for most people is Canva. It's super easy to use. It has a free plan, and the pro plan is like $12 a month. It's very affordable. It comes with a bunch of templates, and it allows you to make some really nice looking lead magnets and ad creative without having a lot of graphic design experience. So what I've done here is I've created a new design file, and I've set it to 8.5 by 11, which is a typical piece of paper dimension. And by doing that, Canva has given us a bunch of templates on the left here that we can just click onto and import into this design file. So that means it's going to be really easy for us to find something that's on brand with our client and design something that looks really nice. So this is a great way to create the lead magnet and then the ad creative as well. Next, we're going to be writing ad copy. And how we used to do it was we would go into Facebook Ad Manager, set up an ad, take a look at the preview of that ad, take a screenshot, and then paste that into a Google Doc. And then we would just compile all variations of ads in that Google Doc for the client to approve. But that just takes way too much time to do. And it also doesn't consider all of the possible variations of mixing and matching headlines and body copy and creative. So what I've started to do is just insert this information into a Google Sheet like this, where we have different tabs for each component of the ad. So we've got the body copy, which Facebook calls primary copy. We've got the headline copy, description text. We'll add the creatives in here, links to landing pages, and then sometimes email copy as well, if it's not too long. And so what I'll do is in row 2 here, I'll just insert the first variation of body copy that we're going to use. This is just the ID, which I'm going to show you how we use that in the ad manager. And then we would just add all body copies in here. And then we would send this to the client afterwards. They would go through and say they approve it, or they would not approve it and then leave comments for us to revise. And so each of these sheets looks the same. It's just empty rows where we would add copy. For the creative, we would just click on the cell, click on insert, image in cell, and that just basically embeds the creative in there. If it's a video, we'll usually just save it in Google Drive and then add a link to view that in the spreadsheet here. Landing pages, we'll add links to the landing pages and the thank you pages. And then the description column is just to explain to the client what each page is for. So this is the page where they're going to opt in. This is the page where they're going to see after they opt in, that kind of stuff. And then email copy. This is not the best way to display this information necessarily. So if you only have a couple emails and they're not super long, then you can include them in here. Otherwise, if it's long form content and you have a pretty long email sequence, then I would recommend putting it inside of a Google Doc. So we send this to the client, they approve it, and then we can begin setting up the Facebook campaign. So I'm inside of an ad manager right now for a client, and I'm filtering to just one campaign. So these are all of the ad sets inside that one campaign. You can see that there's 17 in total, and there's only one active at the moment. And so what you'll notice is that we have several ad sets with a daily budget of $50, and then a few at the top here that are below and above that. So what you're seeing here is when we launch a new ad set, we will set the daily budget to, typically we'll try and set it to an amount that's greater than the average cost per result that we expect to get for that campaign, depending on what that number is. So if it's like a typical lead generation campaign where the cost per result is going to be $5 to $10, then we'll try and make sure that that daily ad spend is $10 to $20. In this case, this is a bit of a different campaign. We're not actually generating leads like we typically would with a lead magnet. We're actually getting people to opt in and book a call with that sales team directly. And so as a result, the cost per result or cost per appointment here is higher. You can see the average is $83. And so we're not going to put the daily budget that high to begin with. We start it at $50. So it's not perfect, but typically we like to keep the daily media spend to at or above what the typical cost per result is. And so what we'll do is we'll launch a campaign oftentimes with 3 or 4 ad sets to begin with, depending on how much media spend we can work with. And then we'll let those run throughout the learning phase over a few days. Typically with a campaign at $50 per day, that'll be like 3 or 4 days, sometimes longer just to collect more data. After that point, we'll take a look and see what the average cost per result is for each ad set. And if it's below what our break-even cost per result is, then we'll start scaling it by increasing the budget. And if it's more expensive than that break-even, then we'll just deactivate it, which is why you see so many deactivated in here. So I think the break-even cost per result for this client is like $250 per appointment, quite high. But our goal for the campaign here is to be below $90. So you can see with these 4 bottom ones that started at $50 per day, the average cost per result is above $90. And so that's why they weren't scaled beyond this point. Now with these top 3, we can see they have different daily media spend. So these were scaled at one point, and in this case, descaled. So if it exits that learning phase and it has a cost per result below our break-even point, then we'll start scaling the budget. And we do that by using automated scaling rules, which you can do by going into More and clicking on Create a New Rule. And so the way that we do this is we'll name the ad set when we launch it to include that date that it was launched. So if we launched it today, for example, it would be December 5th. And after it exits that learning phase and we decide that we want to scale it, I'll replace December 5th with the word scaling. And then I'll create an automated rule, and it will look for ad sets that contain the word scaling that are active. And then it'll scale it by 10% per day as long as it meets the conditions. And those conditions being more than 8,000 lifetime impressions and an average cost per result over the last 7 days below our break-even point of $90. And so that'll happen automatically once per day. It'll check, and if it meets that condition, it'll scale this particular ad set by 10%. And then if it doesn't meet those conditions, meaning if the cost per result is higher than our break-even point, I'll create a separate descaling rule for that, which will decrease that budget by 10%. Now, we used to do it where we would scale, and then if it ever met ever got to a point where it didn't meet those conditions and the cost per result over the last 7 days was too high, it would just deactivate that ad set. And we found that it was hard to sustain ad sets for longer than 2 or 3 weeks. And so what we experimented with was applying a descaling rule where we descale the budget. And so what we found was that we were able to maintain a good average cost per result over about a 4 to 5 week period, even when we're applying that descaling rule. So basically it extends the life of the campaign while still maintaining a pretty good cost per result. Okay, so in this case, when we're descaling, once it descales below where the average, where the daily budget is below where we started, so in this case it's 48, that's the point where it's going to kill that ad set. Otherwise, it's just going to continue descaling until it reaches that point. So for this particular ad set, though, you might be wondering why it's at 129 and it's deactive. So the reason for that is because we got to a point where both of these were producing pretty good results at a pretty high daily media spend, and we only have a certain amount of money that we're allowed to spend each month. So it got to a point where we had to make a decision. Do we want to decrease the daily media spend on both of these? The risk of that is that you're going to reset the optimization for both those ad sets, and they might both perform poorly. So the other option was just to deactivate the one that was performing the worst. So that's why we deactivated this one with $67 cost per result, but kept this one active. So if I click into one of these ad sets, okay, so now we're in the ad section for that ad set. You can see that we have 8 ads that are active. What I would recommend doing and what we typically start with is 4 active ad sets, especially if your daily media spend is lower. Like if it's in the $10 to $20 per day range, I'd recommend starting with 4 ad sets in each, or 4 ads inside of each ad set. The reason we can get away with using 8 in this case is because the daily media spend is quite a bit higher. It's at like $150 per day. And even when we launch this campaign, we start with $50 per day. Typically when we launch, we'll have 4 ads where the headline, the description, the body copy, the button are all the same, but then each of the 4 ads will have different creative. So we try and limit the differences between those ads to just one variable. And that helps you better understand exactly what variables are having an effect on your performance. Now you can see in this case, we have a bunch of random letters and numbers. So this corresponds to that preview package. So in the body copy, we use P now because it refers to primary text. That's what Facebook calls it in the ad manager. In this case, the B is actually the primary text or the body text. So you can see we have an indication of which variation of each of those we're using based on the preview package for this campaign. And you can notice that there's kind of a wide variety. We have the same headline for these 3 ads, same body copy, same description, but 3 different creatives. But then these ones down here are using some different headlines and body copy. So in this case, this is not a new campaign. We would typically launch a campaign where they're all the same except for the creative. But in this case, over time, we've been able to establish which variations and combinations have performed the best for this particular client and campaign. And so when launching new ad sets, we'll sometimes launch with ads that we know have proven to be successful in the past. So once you start to collect some data, then you can start to do some stuff like that where you're using ads that you know to perform well. You can see we have this last significant edit. It's been 68 days. So this is a great example of a campaign that's been running ongoing for a pretty long period of time without any changes being made, or in this ad set in this case. So if you're just getting started, and let's say you have like a $600 per month media spend, a good place to start would be one campaign structure, and $600 per month would be $20 per day, I think. So that would be maybe 2 ad sets at $10 per day, might be a good place to start. And then inside of each one of those ad sets have 4 ads, and then do what I said where you keep everything the same except the creative. And then I would use that same creative or those same ad combinations in both ad sets. So don't change anything, try and keep everything very similar, and only try and test one variable at a time. Okay, so the next thing is the landing page. So the tool that we use to build landing pages is called Unbounce. Basically, we have this account where we can build, I think it's like 150 landing pages, and we can add multiple domains. So we use this for pretty much all of our clients. And this is where we design these landing pages for these campaigns. This is a more expensive tool though, so it's not necessarily an entry-level option. I think we pay like $200 or something per month. I think the beginner entry-level plan is like $80 per month, but that only allows you to have one domain. So if you want to use different domains for each of your clients, you're going to need to upgrade to one of the higher plans. I think the $120 per month plan allows 3 domains. So you can see we have 23 domains in this account. And basically what we would do is I'm in the process of, or I clicked create new page. There's a bunch of templates in here that we could choose from. Oftentimes we'll just start from scratch or with kind of this basic template and then go from there. The landing page itself is usually pretty basic to begin with, especially with lead generation campaigns. We'll have no navigation. We'll include the client's logo in the top, and then we'll make sure that the form is above the fold. It's the first thing that the person sees when they visit that page. We'll have a very clear call to action and a button to opt in. Once we design that opt-in page, we'll usually duplicate it, and then we'll create a thank you page. So we'll have 2 pages in the account. One's the opt-in page, one's the thank you page. And typically what will happen is a client will have a website, like they'll have a domain, let's say it's client.com. And so what we'll do is get them to create a subdomain which we can have access to via Unbounce. So we might have them create a subdomain like campaign.client.com, and then that'll be the domain that we have access to inside of Unbounce, and then we'll use that for the campaign. So then the opt-in page would be something like campaign.client.com/ebook. We'll duplicate that, and then we'll rename that thank you page to campaign.client.com/ebook-thank you or something like that. And then inside the script manager here, this is where you can add your Facebook pixel, Google Analytics, any of your tracking code. It just logged me out, but you would insert your Facebook code, and then what you can do is create a Facebook event to fire when people visit a page with the URL being ebook-thank you. So basically what that means is when people opt in and reach that thank you page, that's when it's going to fire that pixel event. That's going to send information back to your campaign, which is going to measure these results. Okay, so ad structure, landing page, thank you page. We talked about installing the pixel. The next thing would be email marketing. So the tool that we use is called ActiveCampaign. Again, this is probably not the most entry-level option. It is more pricey, but it allows you to create some pretty interesting workflow automations. You can do some interesting things with regards to lead scoring. It also has a CRM that's built into it as well. But a basic email campaign will look something like this. We've got 5 emails here. Once somebody opts in for that lead magnet, we'll have this trigger this email sequence. They'll get email number 1, wait 2 days. You can see this is email number 5, and that's because we added this after email 4 here. So wait 2 days, get the next email, wait 2 days, get the next email, wait 2 days, wait 3 days. So this gets sent over the course of like a week and a half, 2 weeks. Inside of each one of these emails, we have more information about the client, information to get them excited about whatever their core offer is, just providing value to help them solve a problem. And then we'll also have calls to action to book an appointment on their calendar. And then typically that first email will be sent immediately after they opt in, and that will include a link to download that lead magnet that we promised them. So inside the emails, like I said, there's a link to click on and book an appointment with their sales team. And so the tool that we use for that's called Calendly. There's a free account that you can set up. Basically, you just connect your whatever calendar that you're using, if it's Gmail or Outlook or Apple Calendar. And then whenever somebody books an appointment through this tool, it schedules an appointment on your calendar and on that lead's calendar. So it's a really great way to book appointments. With the Pro plan, though, which costs $12 per month, you can actually install your Facebook pixel on Calendly, and you can also redirect people to a thank you page after they book a Calendly appointment. So in this campaign, that's how we're measuring results. We're sending people to Calendly, and then after they opt in through Calendly, they're taken to a thank you page, which fires that pixel event. The next thing would be Zapier. So I have a video tutorial, which I'll link above, on how to use Zapier. This is a tool that we use to connect all of these softwares together. So basically what happens is when a new form is submitted in Unbounce, meaning somebody has opted in for that lead magnet, What it does is it triggers an email notification, which is sent to the client. That'll contain a subject line that says a new lead's being generated. It'll include the name, email, and phone number of that lead, what lead magnet they opted in for, etc. It's also going to add that contact into ActiveCampaign, into a specific list, which is going to trigger that automation to begin. And then it's also going to add them into any CRMs or other tools that our clients might use. So if you're interested in Zapier, I think it's a really good tool. It's also pretty affordable. There is a free plan, but if you're using Facebook lead forms, you need the pro plan. And you also can't use multi-step zaps in the free plan as well. So it's a little bit limited, but the first step pro plan is like $25 per month. So it's pretty affordable. It's definitely one of the better tools that we use. Okay, so the next thing would be reporting. So once your campaign's active, it's in market, you need some way of measuring success and reporting that success to your client. So I made another video that goes into more detail on this spreadsheet, which looks very complicated, but it's actually quite simple. Basically what we do is we measure metrics at each step of the funnel. So at the ads, at the landing page, the email, the appointment, and then also the sales process for our client. We measure each of these metrics to tell us how each of these steps is performing, whether it's excellent, good, average, poor, or awful. Based on that status, we'll be able to pinpoint exactly what areas of our funnel need improvement. So as an example, let's say that the open rate was below average, below industry average, or below historical average with that particular client, or below average compared to similar clients that we've seen in the past. This might be poor or awful or average. But if it's a low open rate, that suggests that probably the subject line is not very captivating. So that's where we would go and take a look at the subject lines, what's causing that open rate to be low, and come up with some ideas on how we can create subject lines that would increase this open rate. We would add that into our workflow for the upcoming week, and then the following week we would measure that again and see if it had any effect on that metric. As another example, let's say the landing page had a pretty low subscription rate. Again, this is based on historical data for this client if you have it, or potentially based on industry average, although that's not always the best way. Typically, if you just have experience, you'll start to learn what good subscription rates are, good cost per click and stuff like that. So let's say the conversion rate was low. That's where we would take a look at the landing page. And again, think about ideas on how we could improve that landing page to try and increase that cost or that conversion rate. So this is a really great way for us to identify what work needs to be done to improve results, but it's also a really great way to communicate value to the client and help them understand what we're doing and why we're doing those things. All right. So that's about it for the tools that we use and all of that stuff. I have here an estimation of the software cost that we just talked about. So Canva, the pro plan is $13 per month. There was a free plan, which will give you, honestly, probably everything you need for the most part to create some good ad copies or ad creatives and lead magnets. If you are interested in trying the pro plan, I do have an affiliate link in the description below for a free trial. Unbounce is we're paying, I think, about $200 per month, but that's not a per client cost. Like we get up to 150 pages, so we use this for every client. So the actual cost per client is quite cheap. Domain name. So if you have to purchase a domain name for your client, that's going to cost about $15. Our Zapier plan's up to about $50 because we have quite a bit in there. But like I said, that first paid plan is about $25 per month. Calendly Pro, which is the most expensive Calendly option, is $12 per month. So that gives us the ability to integrate the Facebook pixel and also redirect them to a separate or a custom thank you page. ActiveCampaign Plus is about $75 per month. That's up to 500 contacts. So once you exceed that contact threshold, that monthly plan is going to be increased. So that brings the total monthly cost per client to $365 US. Again, most of that's coming from Unbounce, which isn't really fair because that's not a per client cost. But yeah, that's a monthly cost of all the tools that we would use. So an alternative would be, instead of using Canva Pro, to just use the free Canva account, which is free. Instead of using a landing page builder like Unbounce or an email tool like ActiveCampaign, you could use MailerLite, which is a free, or they have a free plan, which allows you to build landing pages and send emails to up to 1,000 contacts. And I think it's 12,000 sends per month. So it's a really generous free plan. It's what I use for my personal email marketing, which, by the way, if you want to sign up for my email list, there's a link for that below. In order to use MailerLite, though, you can't just sign up with a regular Gmail account. You actually need to sign up with a email that's connected to a domain. So that means you're going to need to buy a domain, which is $15 per year, not per month. And then you're going to need to pay for some kind of email hosting plan. I use Gmail's G Suite hosting plan, which I think is like $10 per month. I'm pretty sure you can get cheaper ones as well. I don't really know. I like Gmail personally, and I didn't really do any research into other alternatives. So you might be able to find something a bit cheaper, but that's $25, and that's going to allow you to use a free landing page and email software, which is going to cost you more than $25 if you were to pay for those. Zapier, you can try and use the free plan, but like I said, if you're using lead forms instead of landing pages, you won't be able to use it. If you are using landing pages and not lead forms, it is kind of limited. In my opinion, I think Zapier is a good one to just upgrade to that $25 per month plan. It's going to save you so much time anyways that cost is going to be well worth it. Calendly, there is a free plan. Like I said, you're not going to be able to integrate your Facebook pixel or redirect to a thank you page, which means you won't be able to track events in your Facebook ad account. So that might not be an issue if you're not sending people directly there from your ads. If you're sending them there from your email campaign, which is mostly what we do, then a free Calendly account is probably going to be a good option. And so that brings the total monthly cost to about $50 per month, which, I mean, in my opinion, is very reasonable. And that Zapier cost is going to be spread across multiple clients. So as you gain clients, that's going to be reduced on a per client basis. So it's really affordable. So I don't really know what else to tell you. Let me know in the comments below if there's something I missed or there's something that you'd like me to elaborate on. Happy to go into more detail. But I appreciate you watching this video. Best of luck, and I'll see you in the next video.